Welcome back. I'm joined now by Tilewa Adebajo, who is an economic policy analyst and the chief executive officer of CFG Advisory Services, as we continue our focus on Emefiele's MPC no decision. Thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Harriet.
So the dilemma now is that, well, there's a stagflation and there's a recession, and then the MPC has decided to stay action on MPR, or CRR, other rates, but is open to a flexible exchange rate policy.
Well, the chicken has come home to roost, and I think what is important, as we all realize, is the most important thing for our economy is that it must grow. And if there's no growth in the economy, then we're not able to provide employment, and we're not able to create the sort of jobs and the sort of wealth for the increase in population. So growth is something that cannot be compromised, and I think this has been reflected in the policy decisions that we've seen yesterday by the MPC. Without a doubt, the numbers have actually, for the first time, our economy was going at 7.5% per annum, and now we're going at about -1, which is a significant drop in the last 3 to 4 years. So this is a wake-up call for everybody, that the most important aspect of this economy is to grow the economy. And the issues with trying to raise the exchange rate, the exchange rate flexibility has now been fully addressed. And I think it's important that we must understand that a devaluation does not necessarily solve the problem.
But then some have actually said that, having this exchange rate, flexible plan might also just be an official way of devaluation.
Yes, in the sense that the devaluation does not really solve the problem, because the problem is that the main supplier of dollars, which used to be the federal government, does not have the supply available anymore. However, we must remember that there's $20 billion that comes in every year from remittances, and there's another $20 billion sitting in domiciliary accounts across Nigeria. That's about $40 billion. So the question is, what sort of system can you put in place to give these other channels that are now the main suppliers of dollars to come into a formal interbank bid-offer rate? And I think that once we get the announcements of the flexible exchange rate regime, we will get a better understanding of how that would work. And I think that we would now see the rates, instead of being on the parallel market of about 340, we'll probably look at more of an interbank rate, probably around the 250 mark, which would be a new rate prevailing, that even all the oil importers, also the oil products importers, could also access that window. So all the people that have these informal sources of dollars can also begin to have the confidence to push their dollars into that system. And I think this is what this flexible rate will address. But don't forget that there's still that caveat in the MPC pronouncement, that the government clearly will still retain its own window of 197 for its own transactions.
But then again, we should also not quickly forget that we are dealing with an issue of stagflation and recession. And he clearly alluded to the fact that the late passage of the 2016 budget was also kind of responsible for most of the issues that we're seeing right now, especially with regards tending towards recession. But just for argument's sake, since we saw the late passage of the 2016 budget, why didn't the committee decide that, at its next meeting, it might decide to taper off on rates and go ahead and increase rates at this meeting, instead just to allow things start moving in the economy, a reflation of the economy?
Yes, I mean, I wasn't really in favor of the raising of the rates from the last MPC meeting because I felt it was a knee-jerk reaction. What I think we need to do is the fact that we have a 6.2 trillion budget that is supposed to provide a stimulus for the economy, to be able to reflate the economy and avoid this recession. The fact that that stimulus package had come very late in the day. And don't forget, we have leading indicators, we have lagging indicators. Clearly now, we're already, the second quarter will be when? June. So basically we have May and we only have 1 more month. So clearly, by the time the Q2 numbers come out, you'll find out that the economy will be deeply in a recession. There's no question about that, and I think we need to understand that. So it is important that the government begins to implement this budget, and I think that there's no question that we can trace the fact that we've been talking about this, that if the government had started spending come January 1, I think that we could have redressed this issue of the recession. But we are where we are now, and I think those are the important things you've said, because you cannot have a fiscal policy that is stimulus in nature, and then you have a monetary policy that is contractory, because then they're diametrically opposed, and then you will not have the desired effect, which is growth in the economy. What this MPC needs to do now is that we need to reset our inflation. What is our inflation threshold? I think that is important, that we need to redefine that. The last band of inflation, which they talked about single digit, the system has changed that. But what is also important is that for the first time, we're beginning to remove significant distortions in the economy. The subsidy on the fuel prices, things have to find their levels and to find the real market prices. Once we begin to see proper pricing, then I'm not so much worried about the exchange rates, and all those other things would follow, and the proper interest rates. But we need to be able to provide this stimulus. We need to get this budget out and start spending, and we need to get investor confidence, which is what is important. Because if you take a look at the corporate performance for the first quarter, take a look at corporate performance for the second quarter, and take a look at all those GDP numbers, the only sector of the economy that is doing well this year is agriculture, which is 21 to 23% of our GDP, which is the largest segment of our GDP, is the only portion of our economy that is growing. And that in itself is a strong signal that we need to focus on.
Well, we'll clearly run out of time on this conversation, but thank you so much, Tilima, for coming on the program this morning and sharing your perspectives with us. Of course, the conversation on this particular pronouncement continues. It doesn't just end here. But thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much, Harriet.